Disney made this announcement the other day, and you want to feel like it's 2020. Here you go. They're taking some of their pandemic era, and I guess pandemic era is now a generation of Disney films, much like the the revival era of Little Mermaid and Aladdin. They're pandemic era movies. So Soul is coming out in a full theatrical re-release on January 12th. It's interesting, it's a Disney cartoon that never was out in theaters, so they're doing it. Clayton, let's start with you. What do you think of this? Do you think there's any chance that these Disney pandemic movies that never got real theatrical releases do any business in theaters?
I can't tell you what kids like more than dead jazz musicians.
You've been beating this drum for 3 years.
It's number one. I mean, listen.
Yeah.
Finally, we will get to see these movies fail theatrically. Because then I will be edified. Because people are like, still up my ass about Elemental. People are still riding the Pixar train. Sure, re-release these movies that have been available for free for years on a service you plop your kids down in front of just to stare at, right? Try to get up the gusto to get your kids packed up, the diapers, the snacks, get them all in the van, drive them down to your theater. And listen, we're Coastal Elite, so we're able to go to a theater that's very close to us. There are some families who it is a full day for them to get to a theater and back. That is their day. That is it.
Yeah.
They're going to pack them up for something that they could just watch again on TV. No, I'm sorry. No.
Jeff, any rebuttal to what Clayton said there when it comes to these Disney re-releases of the pandemic era? Do you think there's any business to be had here? Wow, I think this strategy of Disney re-releasing films has just frozen Jeff Bach.
Mm-hmm.
Here, he is frozen solid on our live streaming right now, and we hope that he is able to get back here.
But usually when people get frozen, it's frozen in like a really awkward stance. But he looks so powerful right now. I feel like this is this silence is the most powerful argument against my argument. I don't even think he has to say anything.
Yeah. If you were watching us on YouTube and Jeff dropped off, and I'm hoping he's going to pop on here, he was statuesque in the way that his internet froze him. That's
the new Twitter. That's his new Twitter shot. His new Twitter pic should be that.
Yeah. So Clayton, I'll say this. I think that.
Go ahead, defend Pixar. Go ahead, Pat.
No. I think that, and there he is. There's the man, Jeff. We were talking the Disney re-releases of these Pixar films from the pandemic era. I'll throw this out there. Clayton is obviously very against these films or their chance for success. I'd agree with that on Soul. I think Soul is not going to do much business in January. I do think there's something to Turning Red coming out in February, being able to do some business. I feel like that was the one everyone back in 2022, right? That was, or maybe early 21 or the spring 2021. Everyone sort of was like, this should have went in theaters. This should have went in theaters. They did it still as a D+ release. I think there's some business that movie could do, again, especially in the doldrums of the winter. Or what do you think, Jeff? Is there anything that these Disney Pixar re-releases could do in a major way?
I think in terms of, if we look at all three of them, yes, nobody really, I mean, the soul thing that Clayton said is very true. That is a tough sell to kids. Yeah. Turning Red, interesting film, but my daughter, who, like I said, is a teenager, and she was at that time, Turning Red was very was a very big part of what she was going through personally, and she did not like this film.
Okay.
She did not, and her friends did not like this film, and I don't know if it was almost like, it was not old enough for the teens that it's about, and maybe the younger kids who didn't understand what turning red meant. Maybe they were okay with just that giant red panda going around and turning bigger and stuff like that. And so I think it's weird because it was trying to aim for older teens, but really hit, I thought, preschool and younger kids who didn't understand what it was really about. And so in that way, I feel like the film itself just kind of missed. All three of those films are not Pixar. They're more Good Dinosaur than Inside Out or Cars. They just don't appeal to wide audiences. I know it's weird that they all three happened back to back to back, and they happened in the pandemic. I just never thought that those three films, even though I think like everybody else, I usually experience every Pixar film on the big screen, and everyone is usually a slam doink, right? Like that's what it is. But these films, like Lightyear, they just didn't have that magic that Pixar usually has. And I felt Elemental was more of a Pixar film, and not because it was released in theaters, but because of the content, because it was closer in relation to other Pixar films in terms of quality. And these three films, listen, the reason Disney is doing this because they don't have shit on the release calendar for 6 months after Wish was released, which is bombing. They don't have another film until Inside Out 2, Disney Studios proper. Now they have 20th Century and they have a Planet of the Apes film coming out on Memorial Day, but Disney proper, Disney releasing, Walt Disney Studios has no film between now and Inside Out 2 in June. And that is this is a horrible thing for the entire business, for theaters. I don't care what you think about Disney, and if you think they're too woke, and I really don't give a shit what you think about them personally, but as a company and who they are in terms of the hierarchy of studios, they're on the top still, guys. They are on the top because most people still like their content. It may not be as well liked as it was 3, 4, 5 years ago, but it is still the top of the heap. And so when you take the big cat out of there for 6 months, what do you think that does to theaters? This hurts everybody not having. And so I get why Disney's releasing these films, but it ain't going to matter at the box office.
Yeah.
Nobody is going. This is more like an art house audience that really cares about seeing these films because they miss them on the big screen. To me, this is like, art house people will go see these films, but kids and their families, no, that's just not going to happen.